This is a Sony STR-7800 SD. I wanted to try to find a way to make this video. It's actually hard because I have so much to say about it, because this was like a real crazy learning experience for me. There wasn't a schematic or electrical diagram on Hi-Fi Engine, so I had a really hard time figuring out what the issue is. The issue was there's two relays. There's a relay here and there's a relay underneath on the driver board. I guess it's a big amplifier / driver board underneath the unit. That speaker relay on that bottom board was not working, and I know why. It's because right away when I was just checking basic voltages, this side looked like it was pretty close to the bias that it was supposed to have. This side was like 60 volts, and the whole side was rail voltage essentially. So without a diagram available, other than the block diagram on Hi-Fi Engine, I started pulling driver transistors. Actually, I pulled all the outputs. None of them were shorted, which is usually when you see that type of crap, it's usually the output transistor shorted, or something in the output stage is shorted. None of them were shorted. I pulled all the emitter resistors. They were all out of spec, but they also were not obviously they weren't causing the issue. They weren't causing that crazy slamming everything to the rail voltage. I pulled a bunch of components on the protection board because I didn't know what the circuit looked like. It's actually kind of a complicated little unit somewhat. Without a schematic, very hard to troubleshoot, in my opinion. But I ended up pulling like everything from that side on the driver board, and I found like 2 or 3 shorted driver transistors. I didn't pull all of them because not all of them appeared that they were short with just a basic multimeter continuity test, which is probably the last time I'm going to do a test like that, and I'll get to that later. But try that out before I get a strike. But let me see, where was I? Anyway, I gave up on it essentially, and I let it down for some time, and I was like, you know what, screw this thing. I can't fix it. I pulled like everything, and it was still getting slammed to rail voltage. So I was at work one day, and I was like, okay, well, let me just Google if there's a schematic. I just got a wild hair, and I was like, let me just see if I can find a schematic for this thing on Google. And while I was at work working on something, and I found a diagram on Electrotanya. It's like, I think, a German website. I'm not sure. I think it's a German website. But yeah, so with the actual electrical diagram, I was able to determine all the sources on which it could get that rail voltage. And there were 2 resistors, these 2 transistors that were still in circuit, because at this point, I was just pulling stuff out of circuit, just trying to figure out what was causing the short. There was one driver transistor that was only showing a short when voltage was applied. So in other words, if you get the transistor and you try to do a continuity test with a multimeter, it doesn't show that it's shorted, which is what I like to do sometimes in circuit. I'll just do like a quick check with the multimeter. Probably not a great way to do check for shorts, but it's worked for me in the past. So I just did that, and that's why I looked over it the first time. Anyway, I pulled that one, and I actually when I pulled it, I checked, and then no more rail voltage. So I knew that was a problem, and just to verify, I put it on my peak transistor tester, and it showed that it was actually a short. Because that thing actually applies a small voltage to it, and yeah. So anyway, I replaced all the capacitors anyway, because I was pulling them because I was checking for shorts. And when I pull electrolytic capacitor, I don't reinstall the old one back in. I just replace it. So the driver board has all new electrolytics, almost all new. Like there's like 3 out of like 20 or 30 of them. Like I did so many electrolytics on that board, and there are some drivers that I did on that board. But anyway, it is working now on both channels. It's not perfect. I was able to bias it in, believe it or not, both sides biased in, but What was I gonna say? I don't trust the unit because what I would do, I would replace all of the emitters on both sides because they were way out of spec when I pulled them, like way out of spec. I mean, they're supposed to like 0.47 ohms, and they were like measuring over an ohm at like ohm in like 24. So all the emitters need to be replaced. All the transistors on the driver board, that I would replace them all with matched stuff, and only then would I trust this unit, because right now it's kind of just, it's working, you know. And I mean, I did a lot of work to it. I've already replaced so many capacitors in it on the power section, but long term, I mean, I don't trust it. I would continue, but at this point, the client, the amount of work I have into it, it probably exceeds anything that the client is willing to pay me. So I honestly kind of just fixed it because I wanted to learn how to be a better technician, and I learned a lot, from this unit. But yeah, oh, and the lamps were burned out, so I put in new LEDs because you can't do a job like this and not have brand new LEDs. But yeah, so that was my fiasco. For all intents and purposes, it's working, and it is biased up, and it does run. Let me see, play a song here, one that I won't get flagged on. Actually, this one might work. This is jazz here, so everything works. Knobs need to be cleaned, but I didn't spend a whole bunch of time cleaning the knobs because they still work. They're just, it's got a very clinical kind of sound, but it still sounds really good. But yeah, everything works. So that's this unit.